Please listen carefully.
Hi, I'm Paul Frields.
And I'm Dave Guzman.
Welcome to Practical Bass, where each week we pull out a topic of interest to you, the working bass player, and we look at it from a bunch of different dimensions, sort of explore it, talk a little bit about our experiences, and we also call on you, the listener, to come back at us with your experience. We really want to have feedback from you. We want to hear from you and have a conversation with you. We want to have a relationship, not just have you, follow us on social media. We want to hear from you. We want to share in the experience of being bass players and in the growth that comes from that journey. And to do that, it's pretty easy. You can go to our website, practicalbass.com. We have a feedback form there. You're welcome to fill that out. And it simply emails us. We don't sell your address to anybody or anything like that. It literally just emails us. We love to hear from you. You're welcome to also correspond with us on Facebook. You can find us at the Practical Bass page. You can find us on Google+, on Twitter, and even on Instagram if you want to send us funny pictures or pictures of you with your bass or many basses, as the case may be. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, that's as easy as it could possibly be as well. On your iPhone, just go to the Podcasts app. On your Android phone, you can go to Google Play Music or whatever device you're on. You can choose like something like Stitcher Radio or any podcatching app that you like, iTunes, for example, on your Mac, and just search for Practical Bass and you will find our podcast. Hit the subscribe button and a new episode is going to get delivered to your app every week for you to listen to at your leisure, hopefully many times over because we're just that entertaining. And we hope that you will also refer your musician friends to our podcast as well. We specifically target bass players, but we do not discriminate. We are inclusive of all musical instruments and their players here without regard for their register or number of strings or other doohickeys. So we'd love to hear from you. Anyway, I think this time, we've talked a lot about habits. We've talked a lot about the business of being in bass and some of the growth journeys you can take for bass. Yep. I think it's about time we did an episode all about gear.
Ooh.
I'm definitely gonna do something with that.
There's a sound
post-production. It's gonna be all about gear.
Gear, and more gear.
Exactly. So we're gonna talk about what's our favorite thing to talk about? Basses.
Yeah.
So, Dave, I want you to tell me about the most expensive instrument that you've bought. The most expensive.
The most expensive is the bass that I'm playing right now, today. Since, I only play one bass at a time.
You're a one bass man.
I'm a one bass man.
You're monogamous about your basses.
I do have some other basses in the closet, but yeah, for the most part.
But you find one that you really love to play, and that's the one you pretty much bring everywhere.
Yeah. So the bass that I'm playing right now is actually it's a custom bass, and I, crossed that line recently. I've got a friend of mine, Eli Barreto, who has been making guitars and basses for about 25 years, mostly as like just an art and for friends. Recently, he got into his brother is one of those international bass players, kind of like a Latin jazz bassist. He also produces.
He's a monster.
Yeah, he produces. His name is Agustin Barreto. He produces music for a major Latino music station. I think he's based out of Miami. So they got together and he worked with his brother in trying to figure out like how to design the perfect bass for him.
Yeah.
And the price point was set pretty. It was set at what you would expect for that product. Like kind of way out there, right?
Yeah.
Like if you've got the money and it's deserving, but he hit a point where he realized he wanted to do something more on a budget level, which is where my high end of my budget kind of fit. So, kind of in that 2000-ish range.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm playing right now. It's a 4-string Barretto, and it's actually the first model that he put out in that range.
Yeah, like you literally have the first bass
number one
in that line.
Yeah.
And that's really something. You definitely are going to want to hold on to that, because
it's kind of cool. Yeah,
it's very cool to have like number one of a line. And and Eli builds, they're just such gorgeous instruments. I remember, when he brought the blanks over to your house that he'd been working on, and like putting it on my leg, and it literally balanced. I mean, I put it on my leg and I didn't have to hold it.
Right.
It just sat there perfectly, exactly where it should. Like it was glued to my leg in the perfect playing position. It was amazing.
It's magic.
It is a magic bass. It's really cool.
It's a little bit of magic.
I feel like at some point we should get a picture of you, and we should put it on our Instagram of you with that bass. Maybe by the time this episode comes out, we'll have that out there to accompany this somehow.
Ooh, a photo op.
Yeah, exactly. And and just once again, because hey, I mean, we don't we haven't been paid to do this. This is not a paid endorsement in any way, but I that bass is really lovely. So if anybody's if you're looking, you want to look up Eli. So it's Eli Barretto, Barreto.
Correct.
And definitely worth checking out. Some beautiful, very ornate, and also very individual looking. Like they've got their own kind of exotic look, which I think is fantastic. It doesn't look like just any other, oh great, it's another J bass clone or whatever.
Right.
Not that those are bad, because I love my J basses.
That's right.
This is definitely like a cut above.
Yeah. What about you? What's the most expensive instrument that you've handled?
So I've never bought myself like a truly boutique instrument, although I have been thinking lately about, down the road investing in like something like a Sadowski maybe. But,
Right.
But right to date, actually one of the most expensive basses I bought was a long time ago. I mean, it was when I was getting started in like my first or second band that I'd done. The band leader was really particular about everything, like and really controlling about stuff in a way that was overly controlling. Like I should never have, like in my current status or my current mindset,
right,
I would never have gone for this. But in those days I was very inexperienced and I was looking to learn. And I did. I learned a huge amount of that band. But one of the things the guy wanted is he had a very particular look and for everybody in the band. And he wanted me to get a Gibson Thunderbird 4, the Nicky 6 style, that bass,
right,
which is a monster instrument. So I couldn't find any used. Like eBay in those days was like, it was really sketch for buying expensive things. Like they've gotten a lot better about how they guard you nowadays.
Yeah.
Ever since I guess Google bought them or whatever. And there was no like Craigslist or
Reverb wasn't out then.
Yeah. I mean, the web was not, this is like 1994 or something like that. So, so I went to Chuck Levin's Washington Music Center and I bought a brand new Gibson Thunderbird 4 and it cost me like $1,800, like almost $1,900, I think, with taxes, like maybe north of $1,900.
Yeah.
It was expensive as crap. But let me tell you what, that was a monster instrument. When you played that, I mean, it was authoritative sounding.
Yeah.
And I played in that band, I played with a pick because that was the style for that band.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I mean, it was a monstrous sound. It was a great bass, but it was not a great move. I was a young guy and it wasn't like I had tons of money to throw around. I was just like, took the plunge and, I was paying it off for months, but, and I ate all the depreciation because I bought a new bass, which I never do hardly ever do anymore.
Right.
Hardly ever buy anything new these days.
Yeah.
I think I sold it a few years later after that band was done. I don't think I sold it for more than, I think, $1,100 maybe.
Yeah.
So I ate all of that,
Yep.
like all that cost.
How did that feel?
Not good. Not good, Dave. I didn't do that very much after that. Like I said, I don't like buying the new basses. So those are, I wouldn't say those are like the most expensive things you can buy. I mean, goodness knows you can go out and spend, you could spend $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 on a bass from like, if you want to buy like the custom Foderas and things like that, you can spend a pretty penny on those.
Yeah.
So, you and I are comfortably, I think, in the middle, like in the, our expensive basses are maybe in the median range for, they don't get in the crazy range.
Yeah. And it's not that it's, I mean, I think I'm a little bit jealous. Like when I see someone with that level of bass and they let me touch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you play it and you realize like, oh yeah, like,
yeah,
that's a piece of machinery.
I've actually been able to put my hands on and play some instruments that were extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Just in a bass, like in a bass boutique or whatever.
Right.
There's a great one up in Alexandria that we should hit someday because they have some cool stuff. We'll talk about that off air. But
field trip.
Exactly. What would be cool? Maybe we'll take the podcast there. Who knows?
It's a great idea. We can run it from the car.
Yeah.
Like in the parking lot.
Right.
Go and try a couple basses, talk about them.
Yeah.
Back in the car.
Yeah, exactly. Shoot ourselves like playing them or whatever.
Right.
So the expensive instruments definitely go to crazy levels of expensive. But without regard to actual cost, like no matter what the dollar amount was, there's value instruments that you can get. Like you can spend $2,000 and get a high value instrument, like an instrument that is a great value for $2,000.
Right.
You can spend a lot less and get a great value in that instrument, right? It's relative to what you're spending.
Yeah.
What is the best value in an instrument that you've ever owned? And do you still have it?
Hands down for me, the best value was when I picked up it's a Fender Jazz Aerodyne.
Yeah.
And what I really
Your
liked
famous
about
black Aerodyne,
the black Aerodyne with, that like kind of like pearl thing that wraps around it. It had like a fanciness to it. You had to clean it every single time because the fingerprints were a monster on that black. So you really had to like put time into it. But it was it had the PJ pickup. It had the growl. It had, all the tonality. For the price point, it was maybe set right around $700.
Yeah.
And
did you buy that new?
I actually bought that new from a friend who owned a shop for a short period of time.
Yeah.
It's like I kind of got a better deal. Like I think it retailed for $750 and I got it for I want to say like close to like $625, $650.
Yeah. Yeah.
I played it for I want to say 3 or 4 years straight. Hundreds of gigs. And just, it got beat up through the process. And I did end up selling it. And I actually sold it for right around that same amount. So I got all my, just about all my money back from it. And it was, for me, I guess, you talked about like the timing of where you're at from like a skill set or from, an experience side. And, I had come off of a couple of like kind of shaky bass situations. So jumping into that was like it propelled my bass playing. Like, it brought something out.
Yeah.
I don't know if when I got that, I was ready for the, that 1,000 or the 2,000 mark. That price point, like it gave me room to grow within that bass.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you felt like it was definitely a professional level instrument,
right?
But also not to the extent that you're worried about taking it to the gig or whatever. Like you take it out whenever you want it. That's the one you pull.
Exactly. What about you? What was your value base?
Now, this is tough because for me, like, I'm all about the value buy now. We talk about this a bunch. Like,
you live in the world of value.
I live in the world of value. It's kind of ridiculous, but I just got into a phase where I actually was just buying and selling a lot of instruments for a while.
Yeah.
Just looking for the right things for me. And I've kept more of them than I've let go, for sure. Like, I've slowly been building up like a pretty decent closet full of basses. So it's a tough choice, but I would say I actually wrote notes for 2 and I realized I probably needed space for 3. I can't. That's how hard the choice is. It's terrible. This is not like a humble brag thing. Like, I really love a great instrument. Like, it inspires a love all of its own, like a car that your favorite car that you had in high school or something like that. I don't know. I didn't have one like that, but whatever.
And I could definitely say that
kids.
when you've got a few bases pulled out, like every single one has a certain quality to it.
Yeah, it's got a charm, and there's a reason that you got it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I haven't played this in a while. Then you take it back out and you play it. Like, why did I put this away? Oh, I love playing this again. Yeah.
And that totally, I think that goes right in line with what you're saying about how it's like, it's when you go to like, and I'm not a huge car guy, but if I am a guy. So if like I go to a car show and it has like older cars that have just been maintained well.
Classic car shows. Awesome.
Maybe they're not like $30,000-$50,000 cars, but they've been taken care of and they're all like beauties in their own right.
Yep.
That's how I feel about your collection. That's why this is probably so difficult for you right now.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So like straight up the best deal on a bass I think I ever got was I bought a couple years old Music Man Stingray 5. Like straight up like the American, made an SLO. And it was beautiful. Like has a vintage 3-tone sunburst and all like, that maple, the highly figured maple neck and just feels so great. And that was my main bass for probably like well over a decade. That was the bass that I played at most of my gigs.
Okay.
And I only paid like $900 for it.
Wow.
And I mean, those go new nowadays for like that Thunderbird.
Yeah.
Those go for like, especially with the nice paint jobs like that, they go for like $1,800 now, $1,700 or $1,800. It's crazy.
Yeah. I've actually been looking at a couple of those. I just didn't realize like the sound that those give is just, it's unique.
Yeah.
It makes you feel wonderful about yourself. It really boosts the confidence.
You grow like 3 inches in your shoes. You're like, da, da, da.
And then you see the price tag.
Yeah. And they're like, oops. Yeah. So, I got it. It was on consignment at our friend Joe's store up the road. There was a guy who basically bought it, never played it. It lived in its case for like, I think it was a 1998 and I bought it in, I want to say 2000, I think.
Right.
So it literally had no wear and tear. It was practically mint.
Wow.
And so, I got it for a song. And just in terms of like getting a great deal, right? That was a great deal.
Yeah.
Now the other two, different circumstances. So maybe not that kind of like steep, discount, but great instruments. So I think my number 2 is my and this is the bass that I play all the time nowadays. It's a Lakeland Skyline edition, right? Which means it's not US made. The electronics come from the US, same grade of electronics.
Yeah. But
the body and the neck and the construction is done in, overseas. Yeah. But it gets plecked and everything, here in the US and finished to like US standards. So it's a Lakeland Skyline Daryl Jones 5-string, the white pearl one. And I paid, the guy who was selling it, he wanted $900 for it. I offered him $8 and he took it. And it turned out it has Lindy Fralin custom pickups in it, not the stock ones from Lakeland. It's got custom Lindy Fralin pickups in it. And the guy threw in the stock pickups too, because he's like, well, I don't need these because, I don't have another jazz bass. So he threw in those as well. So I've got an extra set of pickups came with it and a case. And what I did is I went and spent like $300, dropped a John East DJ Retro preamp into it to change it from a passive to an active.
Yep.
And that bass is magical now. I mean, it's one of the best sounding basses I think I've ever played. It feels fantastic. Like, and the neck is sized right for the profile is so good for my hands. I love it.
Right.
So that's my main bass now. My number 2 bass, the number 3 on this list is also nowadays my number 2 bass.
Right.
And it's the only thing that I've bought new in a very long time. And it's one of those Sire Marcus Miller V7s.
Yep.
It's a 5-string. I got the one that's an swamp ash body with the maple fretboard.
Yep.
And I paid, I think, something like $650 brand new with a nice gig bag for it to be drop shipped shipped right to my door.
Right.
And let me tell you, the sound of these, these are no joke. Yeah. These instruments, like if you hear people talking about the Sire instruments, again, not a paid endorsement. These guys don't owe me anything. I don't owe them anything, but I played this instrument. You've played this instrument too.
Yeah.
And it's the real deal.
It's right on.
These are the real deal.
Like nice.
The preamp is amazing. Like the killer feature that I love so much about my Lakeland and that John East preamp is the sweepable mid. Right. That is the killer app for active basses, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The Marcus Miller has that built in straight from the factory. It's got a sweepable mid.
Right.
It's got like 5 knobs on it. And it seems like to some people that seems like excessive, but all of them have their function. And the great thing is, again, that sweepable mid it means I can tune it to any room. Now, it does weigh a ton. Like it weighs.
Right.
I'd be surprised if it weighed less than 12 pounds.
Right.
But it is a great sound. It sounds as good as many active American basses I've played.
Right.
So fantastic. And in fact, if, this, by the time people hear this video would have been out for, probably a month or more at this point. But Scott Devine, right, who we both follow, we love Scott's stuff. He does scottsbasslessons.com. It's a great bass academy. Highly recommend him.
Yep.
He's a great guy. So shout out to Scott and his crew. We love you guys. He just did a video recently, which was a shootout between these Sire basses and like a $3,500, state of the art active. I think it was a Fender, but I'm not sure. But it was a Fender. It was a Fender jazz bass, like the American Professional Series or something, like their step up. Whatever their like new step up is into really high range instruments.
Yeah.
And he A/Bs them. And it's like you can tell there's a difference, but you realize how good they both sound. And you're like, where's the other $3,000 going?
Yeah. Yeah. And it like when he levels them out that way, like those small differences that you hear, for me, it was like, wow, this then really does just come down to personal taste.
Yeah. The fact that you're even listening to them and like having to say, like, you're not just clearly going, oh my God, that one's horrible and that one's great. Like the fact that you're listening to them intently and trying to figure out what's up, like that right there, like the conversation can end at that point because clearly these are decent instruments. So anyway, I sound like I'm puffing up the Sire, but again, I just feel like for a value in an instrument, they have it figured out at this point. I don't know how they do it, but it's amazing.
This is like, if you're looking for value, like, I mean, I really think that what's most important is at whatever price point, whatever, maybe you have extra money, right? Like maybe the money is not even an issue.
Right.
Maybe your thing is that you like to get that value, wherever that is. Like, I think the most important thing is to get the bass that fits you. Like, get the bass that fits you at that point that like works. You're talking about like the sire, like really working for you. For me, that might not work because of the weight.
Right.
Like that's a thing on my list when I look at a base is it's got to be light.
Yep. Weight is a big deal.
I'm just not, I can't handle that for 3 or 4 hours. It's, it doesn't work for me. So that's a personal, taste that comes into the factoring of, what base I'm going to purchase.
Yeah. Yeah. One of these days I really should go weigh that thing because honestly, I have no idea what it weighs. I just know that it's heavier than any of my other 5 strings.
Yeah.
So yeah, one day I'm going to have to do that, like get it on a scale and just really figure out what it is.
Right.
Usually I don't usually do that unless I'm selling one, like then I go weigh it so I can tell somebody what until then, I don't know. It's a mystery to me. Who knows? It could be 10 pounds. It could be 15. I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah, so, I mean, we talk about the value bases and obviously like, I'm both indecisive and decisive, right? I'm decisive about buying value bases, but I'm indecisive about which ones I like best.
Right.
But, the values are different. Like you said, it's going to be different for each person. And I think one of the things that we ought to make clear here is not that no one should ever spend a lot of money on a bass. That is definitely not what we're trying to say. There's a lot of good reasons to buy an expensive or a boutique instrument, right?
Yeah.
Like what are some things that you can get with an expensive bass that you don't get in like, either like an off the shelf, like a budget instrument or a, like a $500 or a $300 or even a $200 instrument. Like the thing you end up paying for something in there, right? And what's that all about?
Right. And that could lay in, just straight up in the craftsmanship of the bass, right?
Yeah.
Like just how closely they're paying attention to the production of that.
Yep.
And that ends up, how your frets are laid out, how everything is sort of, you have to get your bass set up, but some basses just like once they're set up nicely. Like it's butter.
And craftsmanship means a lot of things too, right? Because that's literally from the tip of the headstock all the way to the pin at the end, right? I mean, like, so for example, to me, one of the dimensions of craftsmanship is like the attention paid to the machinery, right? The quality of the machinery, what's been selected for the tuning machines, right? The string trees, the nut, the bridge, the type of saddles that they use, the quality of the knobs, the switches that are on it, right?
Yep.
Like all of those things go into it. And that's a place where you do see like a budget instrument like the Sire, they make some compromises there. Not that it's like there's a crappy bridge. It's just, it's definitely like kind of a run of the mill type of, mass produced piece. An expensive instrument, quality of the wood, right?
Right.
Like I said, like how that Sire is like super heavy. It's like it's swamp ash, okay, but I'm pretty sure like I definitely got the swampiest part of that ash, in my opinion.
Do we need to beep that out?
Yeah, you got a swampy ash. Yeah, I mean the quality of the wood, not just like it might be the grain, like the appearance, but it may also be like the density, like the very specific density and the consistency of that wood from side to side and end to end.
Right,
and a lot
of like custom guys, they're finding a certain person out in some part of the country that has a certain farm with trees that are a certain age and a certain density, and it gets all the way down to that.
They're sourcing it, and and then also in the building, a lot of the expensive instruments, they're going to chamber it in certain ways to make it lightweight, right? And that chambering is that's a careful process to figure out how to do it in a way that makes the bass sing properly. And, and also like, again, it reduces the load. So, you pick up a beautiful looking instrument, looks like, this big, huge piece of wood. And then you pick it up and it's so light, you can't believe it. And, it's because of that level of craftsmanship that's gone into it.
Yeah. I think if if you look at, some of the differences between getting sort of like that budget level and then moving up the scale from there, what I always notice is just in general, like the tonality, like the bass just starts to have a voice. There's a certain voicing that comes out that may or may not be your style or that you like or that works for you, but there is like, it starts to sing a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and it's going to speak to different people in different ways. Whereas, the value instruments that we're talking about, it's, they're mass produced and, they're going to be, in a lot of cases, they're going to be solid and sound decent, but, maybe there's not something like that special something.
Right.
And, you talked about the fretwork. I mean, the fit and finish are going to be, they should be premium on a bass that you're spending a lot of money on.
Right.
Like you shouldn't be able to fit, like in some cases, you're like, you look at it like the neck pocket is just like, it's super tight and beautiful. Like the finish is done beautifully. There's so many things about fit and finish that, when you find like, oh, there's a bit of like the fret is sticking out just a little bit.
Yeah.
You find that on just about, any mass produced instrument is going to have fretwork that needs to be done to it to make it really, like to make it feel really smooth, like take it to the next level.
Right.
And, a boutique instrument, you don't have that. Like that's all been attended to by an expert.
I even remember, I think early on when I first started gigging, I was using, I bought in one of the SX basses.
Yeah.
They're like, it's, China replica of whatever model of Fender. It was just one of those, and they're all $100. I don't know where they're priced today, but I think they keep them about $100 to $125.
Yeah, that's like the one you buy for your kid when you don't know if they're going to stay with it or whatever.
And I tried it. I was like, you know what? I for whatever reason, like I needed, because I was like on a fret. I don't know. It was this whole thing, but I just needed a 4-string bass, and it's like at that point in time where I was at with bass, like it actually worked.
Yeah.
I played that for about 2 to 3 years.
Yep.
For me at that time, it was enough.
Yeah, my first bass, the first bass I ever owned was a Korean. Well, this is, nowadays the Korean factories are actually fantastic, but in those days they didn't have the standards and the attention to detail. But my first bass was a Korean Fender. It was a Squier P bass.
Right.
Just black with the white pick guard, and I think I paid $200 for it maybe.
Yep.
And that was my first bass. I had it for years. That's how I learned. And I think playing on that bass is what made me appreciate good basses so much more.
Yeah.
When I finally got rid of that and got better instruments, it was, I'd been working so hard that able to relax then on basses and get around so much easier. So. And I think you find that, moving to a very expensive instrument, they're definitely a joy to play.
Right.
So, all of it is about where you set the dial, right? Price, features, pizzazz, and that craftsmanship. And then you get to trade those off in different ways.
Right.
So that's probably a good place to stop. We would love to hear from listeners about their most expensive bass or the best value in a bass that you have bought recently or in distant memory. Maybe that one that got away, or that one that you still dream about, or that your parents sold while you were away at college, or something like that. I don't know who knows what stories there could be about instruments. We all have a million of them, I'm sure. So, let us know your story. Contact us. You can use the website, practicalbass.com. We have a feedback form there. Just emails me and Dave. We'd love to hear from you there. But you can also reach out to us on Facebook. It's very easy to find us there as well. Just look for Practical Bass. You can find us on Google+. We are on Twitter. You can even send us pictures of you and your favorite basses on Instagram. We'd love to see those as well. And keep the conversation going, because this is not just about us talking to you. It's about a conversation and about your feedback. And we'd love to hear ideas from you about future shows, for that matter. If you have a topic you'd love us to discuss, let us know. And who knows, we may have it in an upcoming week for you. If you want to subscribe to the podcast or you want to refer this podcast to other people, it's very simple to do that. You can find a subscribe page on our website, practicalbase.com. You can also look us up directly in your favorite podcatching app. So if you are on the Podcasts app on your iPhone or iTunes on your Mac, if you are on Google Play Music with your Android device or your computer, or Stitcher Radio on just about any platform, just search for Practical Base and hit the subscribe button. And when you do that, you're going to get an episode delivered straight to you, straight to your device every week as we pump them out. And when that happens, we do hope that you'll contact us and let us know what you think. So until next week, I'm Paul Frields.
I'm Dave Guzman.
This has been Practical Base.
Thanks for listening.
If everyone left the house and I was off, like I was just not working,
Right.
my schedule would become a night schedule. Like I would be going to bed at 3 or 4 every night.
Yeah.
It's such a nice time to be by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I've considered chloroforming my family. No, I wouldn't do that.
That would be very bad.
It would be very bad. It would be very bad. But only once they woke up.
Right.